All right, this is going to be a little bit more tricky and sort of gives you more detail of what I'm achieving with clients. And it's really based on over 20 years of experience and then working in special needs. And so I'm going to sort of go through what I've been working on and try and illustrate this all to you. So obviously you understand that, you know, clients are told to just go to a library to get help. And I would argue that in particular cases, it's not probably the right place to try and get half an hour's worth of work from a librarian to help with your tech stuff. Obviously, there is, you can call companies and ask them to help you either over the phone or visit them, but it depends on your particular person you're trying to care for and their situation and what they can and can't do and their skills and capacity. So let's start with what I look at when I go into a situation and try and work out. So understanding the capacity and the skills of the person, I need to consider how they're inputting to communicate. So the input is obviously verbal, their typing skills, their obviously spelling, we can get computers to do that, what method and what devices they're using and what software. Now, why that's important is it makes all the difference for someone to get started. Obviously, the old days, we'd pick up the phone and just talk, dial the number, and bang, and hopefully someone would answer. These days, they don't usually answer, and so now we're deconstructing a little bit. So the input communication, it can be, as I said, the output communication is how are they listening to it? Do they have hearing aids on? Does it output to the hearing aid? Do they need it through a speaker? Do they need the output to be written on the screen so they can read it? I've noticed with some deaf clients that the speed of the internet connection when they were lip reading was making it what the person was saying versus what the person trying to lip read was saying back were two different conversations. And it was due to the speed of the connection because their lip reading skill is second to none. I've seen them do it a few times. So there's those kind of outputs and what's working and what's reasonable and cost management for those, not buying extra software or paying for extra things. And then there's the system communication. And the system communication, there's a few different levels to that. That can be which software is talking to what to do the job, is it working consistently, and are they able to manage it on a reasonable level? So just the system itself, the phone, the device, the computer, the laptop, is the microphone working on the laptop, or is it trying to connect through other things that sort of, and clearing this all out? Social communication, obviously everyone's doing a lot online now, and the government is putting through things because they know people are online instead of watching TV. So social communication, is it Messenger? Is it WhatsApp? Is it chats on Instagram? Is it SMS? Is it FaceTime? Is it like all the different social communications? Which one is going to work best for them and their doctor? So, in some cases, depending on the communication, they're better off having, like someone in a wheelchair, their particular situation, better off having a tablet there with that communicated through that, so they could wheel up to it and they knew that was for video calls and discussing that kind of stuff. So that's just one of the types of communication I'm looking at. Then we go through to what we do with the phone to make the communication better. Obviously, these simple ones, going through the accessibility settings, there's, magnifiers, there's talkback, there's heaps of different methods and, like I said, there, text side. So text size, contrast, screen readers, voice control, and that sort of communication. Do we need program routine to build sort of communication bridges for memory and verbal limitations where the AI is starting to prompt people and talk people back and help them out when they have questions about stuff? And this stuff is really good now. This is getting a lot better than it used to be. I think we're all used to the old ones where it was a bit clunky and stuff, but some of the AIs and stuff I've been testing are working reasonably well to get a good job. Customize interfaces. Sometimes you change on the Android phones, you can change the launcher. So the phone, for a client of mine who's blind, he's only got 6 icons on the whole screen, and that way he doesn't get bombarded with all this other stuff, and all the notifications are turned off to reduce complexity. Routine. So these edits are to try and get communication happening. Like, as I said, not having 6 icons on the screen is better than trying to go through 20. Another blind person I'm working with has 5 by 7. He's really good at it. So getting people started. The visual calendar, that is connected. Usually I connect it to have the ability to do audio return as well, output and input. So clients can, one client he hangs up the phone, and he looks at me, and then he talks to the robot and puts the calendar appointment in that went in, and we both just smiled because it was hilarious. Because he has that thing where he hangs up the phone, he can't remember what happened. But because he did it instantly, he was like a little bit thrilled with that. And that works with his communication style, like, soft keyboard adaptions. There's different types of, they've done a lot of swift typing where you move your finger around, and that's sometimes turned on by default, which some clients with tremors are going, I'm typing things in, I don't know what it is, and it's actually the swipe typing dropping words in there, and that can be quite annoying depending on your situation. Dwell time for keyboard presses and things like that, you can adjust all those settings, and that's some of the things from just the interface side of a telephone now, or a smartphone now. And most smartphones are required because it helps with other things later on, because now we're going to have our ID uploaded somewhere. We want to have some sort of controls. All right, the next level is identity and access management. How the person gets into firstly their phone. A lot of people are leaving PIN numbers on, which is fine. And in one particular case, I had put a 4-digit PIN number then, and Apple did an update and said, create a 6-digit PIN. And because of his cognitive thing, he typed in a 6-digit and couldn't remember and locked himself out of the device. So I have backup methods for that kind of problem. Now there's, the good thing is with some things is biometric, authentication, Face ID and touch. All this stuff is really client dependent on their skills and capacity and what the stakeholders or community are able to help with, because there's going to be times when, for example, one client with dementia, I didn't put the Face ID on because he was using the PIN number as a way for him to believe in his memory, and so he was able to and very sad one day he started to go and he couldn't remember his PIN, but we can do touch ID and things like that. So if all else fails, he can put his finger on there. Depending on the phone, the device, as you can imagine, all devices have different metrics. Password management tools. Now this is client dependent, obviously with the Apple keychain. It is on the Apple device and Apple ecosystem, and sometimes doing it outside of that can be a bit tragic. I have done some testing where I used a Apple password to get into some websites, and then when I went onto another computer to do it, it didn't like it, and that was a bit of a pain. The Google Password Manager, I've used that a lot because I'm finding that it'll move between devices reasonably well. So the clients are able to, or we're able to help them, or it will pop up, or it will offer something, and the devices are usually pretty good with that. Now, this new two-factor authentication thing has been a bit of a pain in relation to the authentication manager. Recently, Microsoft had turned off, well, they said we're no longer saving passwords. So someone had all their passwords in there. Microsoft just gone, oh, we're not doing that anymore. Is a bit of a letdown. So the two-factor authentication being an SMS based, or do we do the authentication app? This is to reduce someone trying to steal someone vulnerable's account, but also to make it in a way that, like I had the exciting situation myself where I had a authentication app and my device reset itself, so I lost the connection to that authentication code. So because I had to put the authentication app back in the new phone, it needed me to recode, but because I couldn't remember, it sort of turned into this debacle. So really, the communication and the way the device works with that client is really important. So understanding what they're using, what they can do, what they can't do, what their memory's like is part of my tailoring. It's reduced risk of scams and stuff, so that's part of it. So once we got the identity worked out, we got the software worked out, we got the way to manage it, and they can use the phone reasonably for day-to-day activities, we've got to go to the next one, which is daily living tasks, reminders, meal, meds, hygiene, whatever our outcomes are, and their outcomes to lift hygiene. Like if someone's not touching the light switch all the time, and they can ask for the light switch, and it's connected to their account and it's secure, this is a win. Reminder to eat. People living alone, it was nice sometimes to say, oh, it's time to have lunch, or a reminder pop up on their phone or their watch, depending on the situation. And works across devices, because I know some clients will sit there on their phone or on their device and get lost, and then pops up and says eat lunch, which is usually pretty handy. Hydration as well, medication reminders. Look, it's not perfect. Like, don't assume that this is the panacea of all, people being able to be perfectly independent. This is not that at all. This is supporting carers that are managing situations, know that there is something. They go, did you see the reminder for lunch, or did you see the reminder for medication? No, I didn't. Just I did. Okay, we're going to make a light globe go off go red when it's medication time. Okay, so other things we can sort of work on. Social participation. Now that we've got the credentials to log into systems, and we've got password management, and we've got the way to use the phone to do so, you can do video calls and messaging that's actually reasonable to that person's communications for daily activities. Employment and learning, accessing. I know that some of the volunteer organisations are getting people to do online training assessments, so they can tick that box that everyone's trained in it. So web browsing, which web browser, which is consistent that works with the account, which is going to save where you're up to, how screen readers work, or how it verbalises stuff, how to do that properly. The other thing is health and safety. That's interesting because telehealth calls, they're going to need a login. They're going to need to be able to do things. They're going to have to maybe share a form or share something immediately. The fall detection, sometimes on my visits, I'll check whether they got the data in there or it's turned on. I have seen some fall detection apps only work when it's turned on for sports only mode or something ridiculous like that, and no one's really checked it. And also to putting in the health conditions into the thing, because now the emergency staff can go into an iWatch and see medications and things like that. Fall detection, what's important about that, depending on the person. Look, I'm not there to invent the fall detection and make it perfect. I just want to see that it's mostly got the right settings, or the person's wearing it. Obviously that's up to the support or the carers and stuff like that, which is fine. But I'm just there to do the technical bit. Is it as much as possible? Like, there's no guarantee that I had someone, they fell over and it didn't work, but the fall detection only works if you don't move for 10 seconds. Now 10 seconds can be a long time, so they fell over and obviously were conscious and they moved, and so the thing turned itself off. So my preference is the big company stuff, like the Apples and the Samsungs and the thing, because they're going to have the best engineers working on it and the best metrics for the situations and things. Smart doorbell alerts. So obviously, example, one client, he's been in bed for I think 5 years now, and his ability to answer the door is really important to him, and so having that available, just to open or up, just even speak to the door through his phone or tablet, and then unlock the door to let the person in for help, whatever he needs, is a big thing. And making sure that the smart door still has a manual key and a manual back on it, I have done really good ones that the clients are using a lot. Usually paraplegia is the door unlock. They're doing that because they just can't get the door on time to get the delivery, or they're getting, because there's a lot of continence deliveries and things like this that they need to go, oh look, I'll be there in a sec, or please bring it in for me, or da. So I'm finding that useful as part of their daily living and keeping them, keeping the outcomes and keeping the things working reasonably well. Otherwise, we're going to have carers coming around and stuff left out in the rain and da. So that is really my distilled version of the communication breakdown. There's obviously more to it because there's different technology and different people, and everyone's got a different style to it. So when you consider buying my books or choosing me to help you out or something like that, these are the things going through my head when I visit. It's not just like, I know people think that I'm sort of plugging in toasters. It's actually a little bit more than that because of the cloud account integration, stuff like this. Yes, you could try and go to the shop to get help, and that's probably they're probably not going to help you for long, and they're probably not going to understand your home network and how you set up and things like that. After working in some of the big companies for years, I realised over the phone I couldn't actually see what was going on. And one time a guy was calling up, he kept getting his password reset, and he rang in like 7 times. And this is the old days when we used to give out like a 10-digit curly password that was a bit of a nightmare. And he kept calling in and my staff were handling it. And I said to him, hey, look, I don't want to pry, but you've called in like 7 times for this thing, and I just want to know if there's something else I can do, because obviously it's a real pain. And this was the days of like beginning of ADSL and all that kind of stuff. And he goes, well, I got my telephone in the hallway and my computer's in the room. And what I need to do is, because I got one arm and one leg, I need to remember a couple of items, hop down to the room, type in those 2 letters, hop back, remember the next one, and then hop back, and remember the next 2 letters, and hop back. And so he's doing this, and because obviously in a call centre you need to get off the call as fast as possible, but he would go and he'd press the thing and it wouldn't connect. And I think it was dial-up. Yeah, I think it was dial-up, because he needed to disconnect the phone call to make the dial-up connection. And that moment, I realised you don't know what people are going through. You just don't know until you see them in their home situation and what they're trying to achieve. And daily tasks, I have seen people not being able to do, like like the MyGov account at the moment, the logging into that has been, I've seen people like not being able to get housing because they can't log into their MyGov to get their how much they're paying, to get a PDF, to give it to the housing place, to get the, it's just a snowball effect of a lot of this stuff. So if you need my help, we can do a quick call and see whether it's worth it for you. Otherwise, I wish you all the best. Try and do it yourself. I know it really needs to see the person at their house and what technology they're dealing with and how they're dealing with it, and also to the personal concerns of safety of like sharing information online when they should do it. And I know the ID problem is coming up in December, and my concern is that this new ID thing is going to cause all sorts of hassles with different accounts. Anyway, that's my story. I hope I can help you. And if this helps you make decisions on other things, that's fantastic. I wish you all the best.